Welcome everybody to A Psychic Affair. This month I have the lovely Native Earth Lady Cathy joining me, and we are talking about angels, aliens and other entities. It's always a very exciting subject for me. It's always a very interesting thing. But first, before we do or say anything else, I just want to welcome Cathy. Hello.
Hello, and how are you?
I'm really, really good. I've got this beautiful day. We've had some terrible storms, and now today I woke up this morning. I went fishing. I woke up and it was just divine, absolute divine. We've got beautiful sunshine and everybody's stripping down to T-shirts in the middle of winter, which is always nice to see. So fantastic. And yourself?
I'm doing great. I am.
Awesome.
I had a great day. Yeah. Went outside and played with the grandkids.
Oh, brilliant. And how many grandkids have you got?
5 now.
5 now. How many more do you expect?
I would like at least 3 more.
You'd like to have 3 more. What about the parents to be of these children? How many would they like to have?
Oh, who cares about them?
Exactly right. You're not the one who has to go through the pain. Yeah, it's
true.
all about you now.
Yeah,
it's fair enough. Now, I've got a little bit of. Go on. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, you go. Go.
Okay. I went through my share.
Oh, that's true too. You did your share, you created the children and so on, but that was your choice, right? So I do laugh because I'm a grandma. I've only got 2 grandchildren though, and I don't see them very often. They live way down the country, but it's an interesting aspect. I'm happy for my kids to do whatever they like, but I've got friends who will want their children to have more children, and it cracks me up. I just think it's pretty funny because especially here when I spend all my time telling my children not to go too early and not to have too many. Hold on to that sucker and then just do what you can afford. Just do a couple and then enjoy your lives and then, replace yourselves.
Yeah.
So the population of the planet doesn't dwindle to nothing. But apart from that, I don't know. I think it's quite funny. I do think it's funny. I really do. I've got a bit of information about the origins, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll move right on to just personal experience, whatever you like. And anybody that's in the chat, if you've had any experience, if you want an angel message, do you do that sort of thing, Cathy, or not? I don't really know. Hiya, Rog. Rog the Dodge.
I'm sorry, I was reading Rog. What was that?
We're reading Rogers, so I'll read it out loud so everybody that's listening on Spreaker and iTunes and Kiwi 6 and Stitcher and everywhere else can know what we're talking about here. Roger just says, greetings, all of you wonderful entities. So there you go. We're the other entities, aren't we? Because the show's titled today, Angels, Aliens, and Other Entities, and there's a reason that I've called it that. So the reason is really quite simple. I wrote a book called that, but way before I wrote a book called that, I used to do shows called that. I used to do public appearances, platform work, and of course you couldn't just call it angels and you couldn't just call it aliens and you couldn't just, there's no real description for the hodgepodge of individual energies that might come through when you're channeling or when you're talking about it or when you're doing message type readings and stuff like that. So I had a whole lot of personal experiences myself, and I wrote this book. Honestly, it's probably terrible because it hasn't been edited, because I cried. I blubbered my way through writing this book, and then I couldn't face it again, so I just quickly published it out there on Amazon and CreateSpace, and then I've never looked at it since, but I know that it needs editing, and I know that it's bad, but every time I think about looking at it, I just can't. Does that sound terrible? I just can't.
I love reading those books.
Oh, well, this is because it's unedited, though, is what I'm talking about. And because it was so emotional for me, I just can't look at it. So I keep waiting for the day that I'll be able to read what I wrote and fix it up, as in edit it. And there are stories that didn't even get in there that I thought of since, and I thought, I should have added that one and that one and that one. These experiences were very profound for me at the time. And so I just poured it out into the book. And then there were very personal parts of it. It's such an intimate book, honestly. I can't believe I wrote it sometimes, but I've never unpublished. I thought about unpublishing it a couple of times, and I thought, it might be very raw and it might need editing, but it's exactly how it was. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why it probably needs editing. I was writing it as I experienced it, as if I was doing that experience or having that experience while I was writing it, because I kind of was emotionally going through it again. So quite phenomenal, but it's still only probably about 2/3 of individual experiences during a set period of time. That was a couple of years that I had, and that was phenomenal. And of course, one of the first experiences I ever had was an angel, and so that's what started that whole ball rolling, really. And now and again, I do these shows called Angels, Aliens, and Other Entities, and I've always done the odd one, and on the radio for years now, I do the odd one because it's such an interesting subject, right? I mean, really, what a great subject.
Well,
yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, cut short.
No, you didn't cut me short. I think we might have a slight delay. So you think I've stopped and then you start. And of course, you know me, if you don't jump in, I might never stop. Jump right on in there. Don't think twice about it. You'll be fine. It's a very interesting area for the very reason that I was just going to go on and say is, aside from the fact that so many people have experiences, we can't ignore either that you can't ignore either that there are people that don't have a belief in God necessarily. There are people that don't have a belief in the afterlife necessarily. There are people that don't believe in the Bible necessarily. Actually, more people statistically believe in angels than in these individual areas, which I think is quite phenomenal in itself. And if you go to the Eastern traditions, then they're the masters. They're not called angels. They've got a whole different set of individuals that are super normal. They are beyond normal. What was that question you were asking that you didn't ask that we answered? Roger? It's like, oh yeah, okay, good. Tell me that you were going to ask a question, but don't say what it was, and then say thank you for answering it when we don't know what we said. Which is a cracker. Yeah, there's nothing confusing about this show. So if we go right back into the Bible side of things, the Jewish or the Judaism writings from Genesis, the Torah, the Torah is later. The Tamil, going way back. There were two named angels, and there was a lot of descriptions of angels all the way back there. And it's quite an interesting thing because in the Jewish tradition, an angel is a spiritual being, right, really, and does not have any physical characteristics. So if you go back to the origins, then that's pretty much what you're talking about. There's no physical characteristics. And yet over the years we've developed this need, perhaps we could call it, or we've developed a belief, whatever which way we wish to look at it, we've developed an ideal of a physiology for an angel. It's got all of a little bit mishmashed, and part of that's because of a few hundred years of paintings depicting them in a particular way. What was it that was said? That it was the 14th century before angels were depicted with wings in artistry, and yet we have Ezekiel in the Bible talking about this massive great chariot style thing with lights and wings and four faces, if you like, four forms that are human forms. He goes into a huge amount of detail, and it's way after the Tamil. So we've got this need to understand that there was an understanding of angelic type beings way before the Bible was written as we know it, way before the Torah was written as we know it. And when you put those things together, you get this very interesting ideal. Now, in the Tamil, or in the original references to angels, there were only two angels that were ever named, and that was later in the Bible. The first angels mentioned in the Bible actually were already in the Torah, and that was Gabriel and Michael. And so as you notice that Gabriel being Gabriel, you notice that these two names pop up all over the place. Sometimes you feel like there's no other angels but these two, please. Right? It's sort of like, these two guys are really working overtime. They're getting all the jobs from everybody pretty much. And so it's kind of an interesting deal. And of course, it's only later again, the angelic descriptions of the prophets, which is the Bible essentially, they added things like wings and arms and anthropomorphic type references to this, but at the same time, the idea was that this wasn't a reference to their physiology; it was a reference to their abilities. Just so as we get that nice and clear. And then Ezekiel has this amazing vision of chariots, wheels, lights, faces of eagles, faces of man, faces of lions, and all of this amazing thing. And he's describing in his vision, and it is a vision. He describes this wheel that they couldn't even make till the century, till the last century, might have been the last century. And that's that. And you've got a wheel within another wheel, both going in two different directions, which means something can move in all different directions, right, without turning. It doesn't have to turn, it just does it. And Ezekiel describes this. Ezekiel 1:6, I think it is. I'm sure it is. I've got it here. Let me find it. Hang on. Within it there were figures resembling 4 living beings, and this was their appearance. They had human form. Each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight and their feet were like the calf's foot, and they gleamed like burnished bronze. Then, of course, he goes on about the wings, the expanse of their wings. They weren't just normal wings. They stretched out straight. They were stretched out straight, one toward each other, and each one also had 2 wings covering his body. So we had 2 wings like this, 2 wings covering the body. These depictions you see quite a bit. The first face was a cherub, the second face a man, the third face a lion, and the fourth face an eagle. Each one had these. And then we move on to, hang on a second, I'll find it. I'm actually reading Ezekiel. I've read it a lot, but I want to give you verbatim. No, this is a bad copy. I haven't got the wheels, but you can go and find it, and it talks about the wheels and the fact that this chariot or this, and it called it a chariot, could move in any direction without anything being turned or without it changing in any way. In other words, it could go sideways, forward, backwards, because these spinning wheels. Now, he's seeing something that's phenomenal, which may even be fairly modern, because we actually have a copter thingy now that has these wheels on it, and it can do all this stuff, and it can fly, and it's all over the place. So he may very well have been having a vision of today, and we can't ignore that. A prophet is a prophet. A prophet has a vision. And if a vision is of something in the future, then is it really what we think it is when we look back on it, our super being, as opposed to a vision of the future, right? Really interesting question for me anyway, whether it's got an answer or not. We've got the earlier books of the Torah. When people asked angels to disclose their names, they refused, such as Jacob's encounter with the angel and the story of the angel that appeared to Samson's parents in the book of Judges. Refused, not telling you, it's not happening. So the question becomes, was there actually a refusal, which is a question, or was it just an incapable of communicating, because when you're having a vision of something in the future, you're not interacting with it per se. And as a person who sees moments in the future, I can promise you there's no interaction between you and what you're seeing. It's something you're just seeing. It might look like it's talking, it might move, it might do all of those things, but it's not seeing you. Therefore, there isn't an interaction on that level. You can hear somebody talking, and I've done that. Heard somebody talking, only I wasn't quite in that space. I wasn't quite in that environment. And so they didn't know that I was there, and they weren't talking to me. So while I was positioned in front of them, it's quite a phenomenon, isn't it? When you start thinking of it that way, if you can think, well, if I can do that, and I know I can do that, and I can get information by doing that, and I can give that information, and it can be proven out later by doing that, then clearly there's that ability to pop it out there. And so that gives you this big question about angels and angelic beings and aliens and all of that stuff, whether it's our interpretation or whether they're actual or whether we are really genuinely seeing something from another time and space. And sometimes that could be remembered and sometimes that might be in the future. But when we come back to the talking of Jerusalem Talmud's references to angels, there's only 2 that were actually named, and they were common. And then, of course, later on, when the Jewish people were returned to Israel in 348 BC, then the Talmud and Kabbalah started identifying many more angels by name. Some of the more commonly known ones were Uriel, Raziel, which people call Raziel, but actually originally Raziel with an E, Metatron and Layla, who you almost never hear of. You know, poor old Layla's sitting around waiting for something to do. Maimonides explains that all angels fall under one of 10 ranks, and he goes through these ranks, which we are all pretty familiar with, and don't realize that we're speaking Hebrew when we say these things. Which is pretty cool. Although some of them are aborted because, of course, they didn't have the B. You know, so we've got our cherubim, which are cherubs or cherubim. Now, the Hebrew word for angel is important, and it matters because you hear me often talking about the energy of ancestry, the energy of the origins of something through thousands upon thousands of people doing something, moving something, pushing something in a particular direction, believing something. Even if you get it wrong, it still means that. And so if you are trying to use it incorrectly, what happens is you get a fraction of the available energy out of it, which is an important thing. So the Hebrew word for angel is malach, which means messenger. For the angels are God's messengers. I say God with that because they don't call that God as such, to perform various missions. So they're essentially missions, on a mission from God. Every angel is programmed to perform certain tasks, such as Michael, who is dispatched on missions that are expressions of God's kindness. Gabriel, who exudes God's severe judgments. Executes God's severe judgments, and that's what they are, the severe judgments. We've got this whole pretty thing, yet we ignore something that we all acknowledge as true. We put Michael in there with his sword. The depictions of the angels range from everything from, some kind of super winged person to an angelic sort of fairy. I say angelic as in a visually angelic fairy type creatures. This is the message. The hand of God is in anything that angels aspire to or put out towards us. I put this in because he's just handsome, guys. That's it. He's there because he's handsome. Okay, Cathy, that's for us, lady.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. It's one of my favorite angel pictures of all times, I've got to tell you. Moving right along. And then you get depictions that are a little bit more classic. And the depictions that are a little bit more classic tend to be angels as healing beings, aren't they? Or they are protectors. But they never really were protectors. They were always messengers. And if you look at the Bible and if you look at the experience of the prophets and if you listen to the experience of people who interact properly with angels to this day, they will tell you that they're not very helpful. They're not very helpful at all. That there's this whole angelic energy thing going on, which is more about either meeting out information, sharing it out there with you, like it or not, by the way. It's not going to be telling you where to plant your roses. It's more like, well, maybe, you're being a little bit insufferable. Maybe you talk too much. I actually had that said to me. I grew up not talking, literally not talking. I was shy. I'd go into my room if anybody came. It took me years. I was well into my 20s. I was working in a bar when that started to change. Before then, the only way to get me talking was to get me drunk, basically. And then I would talk all right, but I wasn't sort of overly chatty. And then I was working in the bar, and it all sort of switched. And then later on, I went and did the spirituality thing. Anyway, then I'd started running classes and all the rest of it. And then one day, somebody made a joke in my head about me talking. And then I said, pardon me? And then all I heard in my head was a voice saying, well, I think you may be overcompensating.
No,
that's pretty funny.
All.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think it was hilarious. Well, I might be, 20 odd years of not talking and then, ba-boom. Yeah, can't talk far or fast enough, which is pretty funny. So we've got these, and Raphael, whose responsibility it is to heal. So it's almost like they've got jobs to do. Roger says the pic on the left may be an angel sent to guide the spirit of the baby back to the spirit world. Well, to be fair and honest, that picture is a modern depiction of a person's idea of what an angel is. It's not an angel, it's a person's idea. All of these are just a person's idea. The statue, these are earlier depictions. It's a few hundred years old, this statue. So we've all seen these this imagery. I think it's not dangerous. I think it's probably a mistake to apply somebody's imagery and idea to our belief, I guess. Because the reason I say that, Roger, is because we've got a Māori healer in New Zealand who's been around for a very long time, and she's what they consider to be a sort of a dying breed, that she was born into her spiritual role within the Māori kingdom, the Māori First Nation tribe. It's not really a tribe, it's a number of tribes. And she said once, when I attuned to the New Zealand Earth energies, which I probably should do a class on, when I was doing that attunement, she very clearly said, people talk about Archangel Michael, but we have a Polynesian vision of what that angel might be. We have a Polynesian image of what any entity out there may be. They're not Western, they are not white. And so that stopped me in my tracks back in the day, because I thought, well, of course, that just makes perfect sense. You're going to see them in the way that suits you. Now, this white person that we're seeing here wasn't even around back then. So if you're thinking about how they would have seen it. It would have been a Jewish or Arabic or, Egyptian face that they would have been looking at. What do you think about that, Cathy?
I just think that every religion has their own idea of what an angel is. Okay.
Well, there is that.
May it be white, may it be black, it don't matter. Okay.
But do you think that's religion or just race? Being in a race, you are more likely, if you're white, to see some depiction of an angel as a white person. I even heard, what was that? There was a comment about Jesus miraculously turned white on the altar because he was never have been white. He would have always, he was not a white man. He was an Eastern man, right? So there's an interesting question around all of that, don't you think?
Yeah, kind of. I just,
well,
an angel to me, okay, my idea, okay, we're all angels on this earth. Okay, we all have it in us. On some of us, it's stronger than others. As far as the wings go, yes, there's angels with wings. You do a good deed with someone, you're an angel.
Right.
An angel doesn't have to be just a spiritual figure. Okay. When going back before, when you were talking about, that the angels don't look like this, they don't look like that. But who's to say, really, unless someone's actually seen one. Okay, you can go on YouTube and see, you can go on YouTube and see all kinds of angels. There are angels coming out of the clouds, angels on the rooftops. Are they real? I don't think so. Okay. I don't follow that so much. I just wanted to see what was out there. Myself, right. You've got your white and your black angels. I don't mean in race colors. Okay? There are some angels that I strongly believe are not, how can I say it? It's the white black wolf. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay? There's a white and a black to everybody. Okay? It's just whichever side you're going to use the most. And with angels, I was at the hospital one day, and I sleepwalked really bad. Okay? And I got up, and I started walking, and guardian angel, or whoever you want to say, stopped me falling down a flight of stairs to where the platform was cement. My step was right over. And I didn't even know I was at steps. Like, my foot was just like going to walk on a flat floor. It was right over top of steps. So I would have fell down the steps for sure, and something or someone pulled me back. When I turned around, nobody was there. And I strongly believe it's a guardian angel. We all have them. Did I see him?
Doesn't that bring you to the area of what are we really talking about when we say the word angel now? Is it sort of like the bottle of claret where everything that's mysterious or supernatural is angelic because that's what you wish to believe or what you do believe or how you choose to set whichever box you want to put that in? Or is that an actual fact that there are a number of different potentials or possibilities around that that isn't necessarily angelic? That's just a question. It's not a criticism. The idea is to talk about angels. Yeah.
I do agree with that part 100%. Like, it's not just angels among us. Okay, you've got...
The reason I bring it... that part of it up is because if we want to talk about the word angel and we want to say this is an angel, and then we go, okay, the true meaning of the word angel is messenger of God, at which point did we turn that into something else, right? Where every dead person is an angel, every baby is an angel, everybody that does a good deed. And I'm not criticizing that you see it that way, but is it more really, is that just language, that really what we're saying is that they've got an angelic quality because they did a good deed, yet we know angels went around killing people, just so as we're clear. just so as we're clear. Yeah, we know that angels went around and they killed people. They smited people. They kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden and left them to their own devices, potentially to die. So they did the will of God, right? And this is the history of angels. This isn't something that's just decided today. But as times have evolved, we seem to be picking and choosing the bits that we want, right? Out of that. We've turned Michael into the guy that cuts through your personal fears and can fix it for you. But actually, although Michael is kind, he was also, if it's for your own good, I'm jolly well going to stab you, But only if it's for your highest good, right? He'd only do it out of kindness. It's like lancing the wound. If it's got infection, you lance it and let the infection out. That was Michael. It always has been Michael. It's never changed. So what I'm really saying, I suppose, is, I think that maybe we're in danger of dumbing down our angels and turning them into something they're not quite right. That's not quite there. It's just a point of conversation.
Right.
If you talk about the Jewish faith being the most studied, scholastic, and continuous race that were there, like literally they were there. They are the ones that have got the ancestry, the passed on knowledge, the written knowledge. We're not it. We've taken their knowledge and then applied it and westernized it. But because we've done that, what we've done is we've actually stopped it as well. We've put a stop on it. That can't grow anymore. We can't understand it anymore, because to understand it properly, we have to understand the history of it. And so if we want to look at the word angel and what an angel actually is, then the question becomes, by humanizing them, when it was originally said they didn't have human form or feature, perhaps angels originally as messengers with God were visions. Do you know what I mean? Perhaps it was hearing that voice or seeing that hand or getting that overwhelming feeling of energy. And if you've ever had that, my gosh, I've had that. It's an overwhelming feeling of energy that's followed by information. Maybe originally the prophets or the people that had these experiences that shared it in writing so that other people could know about it, perhaps they weren't seeing a being as such. But like you said you felt it, it was there, but you didn't see anything, but you knew it was there. You knew that something had intervened, right, and saved you from having an accident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was raised very, very strict Catholic, okay? And I've got nothing against any religion.
Yeah.
But I fell away from it because I like asking questions. I want answers. Okay? It's like, okay, how does anybody know what an angel actually looks like? It could be an alien. You don't know.
It could be. That's right. Let's go there. Let's go there.
Well, really,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It could even be, as right at the beginning when I was talking about Ezekiel's vision of what became called angels, by the way, and has been depicted. I mean, we're not talking about religion here, so I just again want to point out that if you're going back to the days of Genesis and the book of Daniel, all of that, the fact that nowadays those books are hallowed in a religion. They weren't written as a religion. Those texts were put together for a religion, to suit a religion. But there were thousands upon thousands upon thousands of texts written, which are, by the way, today, Voices of the Past is starting with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'll get that in there. Dead Sea Scrolls, we'll be talking about that. But there was so many texts written that were eliminated, burned, thrown away, and plenty that were put aside and not used in any religion, and so they've been found later, as it were. But the point isn't the religion of that, it's the experience. So essentially when you're looking at, if anybody hasn't read Ezekiel, even if you're not into the Bible, respect the fact that the Bible came from the past somewhere, right? And that different parts, forget the whole thing, different parts of it. The reason it's so eclectic is it's all written by different people. And Ezekiel's visions are phenomenal. You know, if you met me today or somebody today who related this vision to you, you would be in awe. Not just you. I mean, most people would be in awe of this. You know, what was it when those three girls had their visions? When was that? Do you remember, Kathy? You know who I'm talking about? Hello, Gigi. There were the three young girls, or was it one young girl had three visions, sorry, and then they held it for 50 years or 100 years or whatever. It's never been really revealed properly, and it seems all a bit bollocky to me, but the point being is they had this huge following. This girl, all her life, she was called a saint in the end. She was created as a saint, made a saint, because she had what was basically a simple vision that was kept in secret. She got a little message. So just imagine standing there and seeing this huge being, and it's got all this wondrous stuff that doesn't actually exist in your timeline, in your time frame at all. Never has existed yet on this planet. And this is where the alien thing starts creeping in, because then you've got those who will look at Ezekiel, and I've heard this before, saying, you know, he saw this, they had to be visiting aliens, but all through that he says, this was my vision. And so if he's having a vision, it means it's not there, right? Don't you think?
Right.
Yeah. It's not there. Therefore, he saw it. But if he saw something that exists today, you know, that's been created within the last 30 years, not the last 300, but the last 30 years, it's been created. The fact that it's been created, and I'll put this on the IntuiTalks page too, so you can all have a look at it. I'll show you what his vision, the depiction of his vision. He's described it. It's described beautifully, detail, detail, detail. So this is where I'm answering your question right there, Kathy, is that when somebody depicts what they've seen and they explain it succinctly, incredibly clearly, he's got a vision where he saw the earth is round. He saw himself flying up away from what he didn't call it the earth, but he looked down and he saw a ball, and he knew that that's where he lived, you know. And it's like, for years, people have been saying the earth is flat, and there he is seeing it as a ball kind of a thing. You know, well, nobody gave him that information. He either saw it, but we know that you can meditate, you can zoom on out there, and you can see all of this stuff, whether you know what it looks like or not. So there's this whole question then that becomes, if he saw something that's today, and the word angel then has to be taken off it, you know, it can't be applied anymore. You've got the four faces, you've got things like lions, you've got things like eagles. They're crests of, you know, war crests. They're crests for military. They're crests for companies. You know, we have logos. They didn't have them back then. We've got logos. We got logos. And we've got 3D logos. We've got pretty impressive looking stuff. If you were from, you know, a few hundred years before Christ was born and you're looking at stuff, then your question becomes, are we talking about depictions of angels or visions of the future? That's my question in a nutshell. They're being like that. Just nice and narrow.
Thanks. What's to come?
What did she say?
I said it.
Where'd she go? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's what's to come. We're going to see more and more of, I'm trying to think of my words. What they described before, okay, as an angel or their vision of an angel, okay, maybe not so much in our time, but in our great-grandchildren's time, they could be the ones that will be seeing what we don't really see, okay?
But see, that's the thing, though. You know, we're talking a few thousand years ago, and we've got a person seeing what is evidently something that is not created for over 2,000 years after his death. You know, it's in the past already. So when we're talking about our grandchildren seeing, I think we've always had seers, we've always had visionaries. And so when we look, do you think?
It's going to be stronger, yeah. I really do. Okay. How often is...
I'll just read Roger. Hang on, I'll just read Roger, if that's okay. Roger's got a good question, he says. He says it's a good question. That must make it so. What about it? We both mean now. What about in a state of ultimate consciousness, the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously? All that is to be already is. I have got an answer for that, but not today. Next week on Psychic Affair, which will be in its usual time slot of Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week we are going to be looking at time. There's been a very important discovery of matter, and this is the thing. There's the line between what we think of as spiritual and what is physical or physiology. Another shameless plug. That's exactly right. I should call my name. My whole show should be called Shameless. There's this quantum time, and they've completed. I was reading about this just the other day, so it's in sync for sure. And of course, for years I've been doing hypnotherapy, and I've been doing energy therapy. That's called progressive. That is, you go into the future, and there's now proof that when you change something in the future, it changes something in the past. Go there mentally. It's mind-bending stuff. And it's like, well, hang on. If that's already happened, how can it be changed? Da, 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 da. Now, we've all had this concept for psychotherapy, for hypnotherapy, for spirituality, that if you change your attitude to something or you change something that is, then your perception of the past changes. But the quantum time, the mechanics, not the theory, is now telling us that actually it doesn't just change the perception, actually changes the past. And I was like mind-blown. Right there, mind-blown. So then, of course, I start to research it and look into it and all the rest of it. And this all happened just a few short days ago, Roger. And so he's in my head. He's in my head, Cathy. Get him out.
Well, I have a hard time
Get him out.
about it. He gets into my head. That's enough.
It's so funny. And so anyway, with that, with hypnotherapy and all of that, I've been trying to put it together in my own mind and trying to make it sort of understandable. And I think I cracked it, and that was it. This morning I was fishing at dawn. It was just getting light. It was beautiful. No sun yet. I could see it sort of rising up behind Mount Camel. And then I thought, next week's show is going to be about this time thing and about future. And of course, you play around with things, right? You play around with stuff. And when you play around with stuff, other things sort of explode out of nowhere, if you like. And the thing is that for years I've been playing with this stuff. I had this massive thing about time for so long. Stay in my head? What the hell, woman? The word was out, O-U-T, out. So when we get to this, we're off subject already. But basically next week I'm going to be talking about that. So Roger, you go get yourself out there. And then also I can explain how we can see the future. Now, I've always said this for years, well, or not always, for years and years and years, I've upset my own teachers by saying I don't believe we can see the future. I believe that we're seeing a progression of today. And we're seeing what we believe will happen in the future. So it's like a doctor's prognosis, right? The doctor gives you a prognosis, and that prognosis is based on their experience in the past, not based on your potential in the future. So they give you that, and now you believe it, so you go ahead and you live exactly that. Aha! So that's what we're going to do. Boop, boo! All right, back to angels. Back to angels. Having a conversation with me is honestly, it's like being on a bloody mini trampoline and getting thrown off half a dozen times and then having to be put back on. And that's a normal conversation. I do really well in my shows, trying to keep myself fairly direct and wandering just a little bit where I can. So it's quite good fun. So when it comes to the angels, and I'm not saying they're not there because I had my own first experiences, but there are so many different depictions of them now, as I said, ranging from little toddlers that are cherubs and all the rest, which is really away from what an angel actually, even the word means, which is messenger. So if an angel's giving you a message, what likelihood is there that it will that it will actually protect you from anything. If an angel is an angel, here we go. Let's go back to history again. Let me pull it up here. I've got it right here. The first explicit mention of angels is in Genesis 16:7, that paragraph. You can go look at it. When an angel appeared to Hagar when she was fleeing her mistress Sarah's home. In the Midrash, however, angels appear much earlier in history. According to differing Midrashic accounts, angels were first created, are we ready, either on the second or on the fifth day of creation. So we were created sort of like the seventh. Or was it the eighth? Or was it the 150th? Somewhere in there. So she's gone dead quiet. I hope you're still on the call.
I'm still here.
Oh, good girl. Are you muting yourself on occasion? Because when I can't hear a person breathing, I think
No, I'm not. I'm not. I have a tendency to stop breathing.
Oh, well, stop doing that. You see, when I can't hear you breathing, I think you're dead. I have to wake you up. There's this wonderful idea, though, that, of course, God created the angels for a reason prior to creating man, right? And so it's forgetting the creationist theory and the creationist argument. All stories, I believe, personally, come from somewhere. There's some understanding. So if we want to make it physics, perhaps angels are specifically a form. When we talk about being able to manifest things, we talk about being able to shift matter and control matter and move matter. If we start looking at it from that perspective, perhaps an angel is matter's way of speaking back. Woo! Did you like that?
I love it.
Thank you.
Here's where I get confused, okay? Obviously, I'm native. Okay, now, the natives have one way of thinking things through, right? Dorothy's got her way of thinking things through, right?
Very complete.
It does get very confusing, though, not just with you. But, everybody's got their own intricate idea. Okay? Right. One is taught one way, one's taught another way. Okay? Now, I do agree with the aspect an angel is a messenger. Okay? They're giving you something. Now, my question is, where is it coming from?
Well, that's where the origins that I'm mentioning here, and I'm not depicting a religion here at all, but everything comes from somewhere. So before there was religion, we had men primarily, except for Hagar. Primarily, though, you've got men and some women having these experiences with a voice or with a being. I don't think that's different to today. I really don't. I think lots of people have that. Lots of people hear a voice or, have this amazing experience, an epiphany, something that's larger than themselves. So I think that really that what we want to clarify, what I want to clarify is when I say angels are a messenger of God, that's not my belief. That's what the word means. That's what the original word means, okay? That's what the actual definition of it is messenger of God, literally. So it's got no left or right of that word. And then we go, okay, so if that's the case, then you can see how you could say that person is angelic if they are doing kind things, right?
Right.
My problem starts, because I've always got one, when we decide that somebody who's a murderer or evil or nasty is not angelic, when we've got angels historically going around killing people. Do you follow now? That's where I'm going.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not so much about light sides and dark sides. It's simply about the fact that is an angel then perhaps not the pure aspect that humans, because this is true for many people, that we should all be, aspiring to be more like angels. I had an angel rear up out of my body as a conscious exercise, by the way. I was meditating. I wasn't seeking the angel thing. And I was sitting in What I now can, I've had a lot of experiences. What I can no longer do now, I was sitting there on the very hard concrete floor in a cross-legged position. I can do, but oh my gosh, I used to do it for long, long times. Whereas now it's a bit uncomfortable over here, and it's a bit uncomfortable over there. So as you do, and so I had this experience, and he reared up out of me. And I felt him, and then I could see he was an angel, and I was seeing myself as if I was sitting opposite myself. I was sitting on the floor, I was cross-legged, I was just meditating, and then I saw him, and I felt it at the same time as I saw it, and he just reared straight up out of me and was standing there, and he put his hands out, and he was talking to me from me. Now, this is a huge question for me, right? And he said straight away, he said, "You will have what you want when you weep for the world as we do." And it took me a very long time to understand what he meant, because on the surface, and I'm not a superficial surface type chick ever, on the surface that seems to indicate that and this is why we need the scholars, like the Jewish scholars, investigating and exploring, because on the surface things aren't always exactly the way they should be interpreted. Science is the same thing. They'll see something on the surface. We can only interpret it with what we know, right? We can't interpret it with what we haven't learned yet, or what we don't understand yet, or what we don't comprehend in some way, or we only have a partial understanding of. And so initially I interpreted that to mean that I needed to be more compassionate, or that I needed to weep every time there was a starving person in India or Africa or somewhere else, or, that first initial drive of energy from that little wee sentence was that it was a physical world, compassionate, understanding kind of thing. And that angels are leaping around the world, crying all over the place because they're weeping. They be a weeping. And so the question became to me, it's like, okay, then as the years progressed, and now and again it would just come into my mind, and it would come into my mind and I would think about it because I knew I hadn't understood it properly, and that's how my mind really does work. When I don't understand something properly, I just keep revisiting it over time. And over time you have deeper understandings and more learning and more going on, I suppose. And now as I understood more about physics, it became even more clear that what he was absolutely saying essentially was that, we move energetically in the same spaces. So when the world is weeping, we are all kind of weeping on some level, but also it's that understanding. So the word is more about understanding. I'm sorry, Dorothy, could you repeat what the angel said? It was a little scrambled through your excitement. Through my excitement. Okay. You mean you don't understand Kiwi? Go on, let's be honest. The accent and the speed of my speech got to you. The angel said, when you weep for the world as we do, you will get what you want. You will get what you want. When you weep for the world as we do. There's a lot of W's in there. So I can understand that you, being Japanese, would have difficulty understanding that, Roger. Because, Japanese don't have W in their language. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so they really struggle with it. That's a genuine, not a racist thing. I helped a girl learn how to say certain words, and then I realized she was struggling with them because since she had no W, so it's like anytime I said a lot of W's, she was knackered. She just can't understand it and don't get it. So kind of interesting. Yeah. So anyway, it was a wonderful experience, and I've had a lot of angelic experiences that are really profound for me. But then this is coming back to your alien comment. One day I was looking at what I thought was an angel. No wings, by the way, none of the guff, none of the extras, none of that was there. And it was a slightly masculine. I always found they'd be slightly masculine or slightly feminine, but they were never like female or male. And this person said to me, by the way, you'd be more correct to call us solars. And I was like, what? Pardon me? You're not. You're an angel. And it threw me out again for a wee while. And I know that they were challenging me to just think beyond the square. And I know that I've pretty much spent most of my development time in that zone, is pushing me beyond the envelope, pushing beyond, what the accepted explanations are. I'm very strong on not bastardizing a name of something, because once you do that, it loses its actual power, If you think about the word, so if you think about amen, right, Kathy?
Right.
and you say amen, what does that mean to you? If you say amen, does it go through your body? Is it just a word? What is it?
Goes through my body.
Goes through your body. How were you brought up? Did you pray a lot? Were you brought up to pray?
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, very strict.
There you go. Now, for me, it does nothing. I mean that. It does. It's a word to me. It's a word that means basically agreement. I know it doesn't quite mean that, but it does, sort of. And so you've got that. Now, there's people that run around saying namaste, right? Namaste. And if you say namaste, what does it mean to you?
Nothing.
Nothing. So there I go then. Is there a real significance to either of those words, or is there an actual meaning to them, and that's the energy it carries that you learn because you were brought up in that environment that used the term? You know what I mean? So when you get people that say something like namaste, for example, there were lots of guys and girls on Blog Talk Radio. They were hosts for ages, and they were all saying namaste to everything, and yet they weren't quite there for it. If you know what it means, for example, and you say it with meaning. And now I want you to try this. Okay, Cathy, you're my guinea pig. Hi, Brian. Welcome.
All right.
Yes, you are. You're today's guinea pig. No, this is serious, actually. So if you think about the word namaste or namaste, and now think this is what it actually means, give or take, okay? The spirit within me salutes the spirit within you, okay? Now think about that for a second. The spirit within me salutes the spirit within you. And say those words, and now try saying namaste again, and then tell me whether it has any effect or any feeling in your body.
Namaste. Yeah, it does.
It changes it, doesn't it, when you understand it? And that's all I'm trying to say is that was me in that angel message. It was like I knew the surface of it, and it didn't have a lot of depth to it until I could comprehend it properly. And when I could comprehend it properly, the full energy and import of the message, which is never just the word is followed by energy. So for all of those that are adherents to Buddhism know exactly what it means, and it means that when they say it. When you get the Western version of that, they treat it like hello and goodbye. And so it's got no energy in it.
True.
Brian says hello.
Hi, Brian.
Carry on.
After you, with the, okay, I'm going to say it wrong.
Namaste.
Namaste? Okay.
Yeah.
When I said that, the first time when you said it, I should say it just threw me. I didn't, it's like, okay, what is she saying,
Yeah.
And then when you went further and explained everything, then it got clearer. And it actually meant more to me that way.
Well, that's what it means. And we're back to what does the word angel mean. You see, I'm tricky like that. So when we know what the word angel actually means, it changes how we perceive something. When we know when we understand it, so we can see anything on the surface and we can know it, we can intellectually know something. But until we comprehend it, that comprehension requires a cohesive understanding between the surface, visual, sound, whatever it might be, and the energy that's driving it, the energy that's supporting it, the energy that's underneath it. If you think about the Nazi symbol, the swastika, for example, it started and still used in Jainism, right? If you saw that show, it's a sacred symbol to them, but it has had its energy tipped on its head because everybody on the planet that sees it outside of the Jainists sees Hitler. They see persecution, they see death and destruction and war, right? We've been taught that. So now that's the energy that it carries. The energy of the Jainists is tiny in comparison to the energy of the world, the population in general, that is. So if you get 5 billion people believing one thing, that's exactly what it's going to mean, regardless of what it originally meant. But when you get historically, you get a whole pile of people. That's billions upon billions upon billions of people over years, over years, over years. And you're up here with your few billion people trying to change it. Now it's not quite the same equation, because you're not trying to change it in the face of other people, but you're trying to change it in the face of history. So when you do that, what happens is the energy is diffused. It gets broken down. And as the energy gets broken down, it's like having a drink of alcohol and adding more, and adding more mixer. You know, you start off with a strong bit of spirit. No pun intended. You start off with your spirit, and then you water it down a little bit, and you water it down, and you water it down, and you water it down until you can hardly find the spirit in the drink, right? And so it's exactly the same thing. As soon as you start diversifying and taking one thing that's really cool and then making it mean a whole pile of other things, then the original meaning gets lost in that. But it means also, so does the energy of it. So when a person says to me, for example, that I'm praying, to me, prayer is actually, believe it or not, quite an important thing. So even somebody like me who's not religious or anything, I see that as something that's personal between you and either an entity, or you and the universe, or you and another person, whatever that might be. A prayer is something that's very directed energy, very directly focused. And so when we start bringing that all back, as soon as people are saying all over the place, I'm praying for you, and they're flicking it off. You know, you see this on Facebook, right? And they say it, but they're not really doing anything. They're just saying it. Then suddenly that whole concept gets sort of broken down to where it loses its power. And power, to me, when it comes to spirituality, is primary. You know, when it comes to individuality, it's primary. It's holding all of that energy and then utilizing it in a single force, and that creates this amazing result that we find we don't get so easily now, you know, because we've dumbed things down to a point of convenience, I guess. Would that be the right way to say it? That it's convenient. Instead of paying attention to somebody, we just flick off, you know, we flick off a term. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
It's easier to just put the words in there than actually put the action to it.
That's exactly right. You know, instead of walking out and helping the little old lady cross the road, you go, I'll pray for that old lady to make it.
There's a car coming.
We're bad. You're bad. You're better than me.
I know.
We'll just pray she gets there. Well, you and I, we could sit at the bus stop, right? And we could watch the little old lady crossing the road, the little old men, and we could just pray for them. Cha-ching. And if they get run over, we can say, they must have deserved that. Because the law of attraction states...
It was the bus driver's fault.
It's the bus driver's fault. Oh, we'll pray for him. We'll pray for him. We'll pray that he can be a lot happier in his future after he's been to jail for 150,000 years for running over two little old ladies that we were praying for.
Yes.
So,
I mean, he's got to pay the price, right?
He's got to pay the
we
price.
Did our job. We did our job.
We did our job. Exactly. We did our job. So basically, anyway, the show is pretty much finished, and we did have fun. Thank you so much for playing with me. I know I'm not easy to play with. I can be a troublesome child, yeah. So, but that was lovely. Thank you so much for joining us, and I really liked your point of view. And I know a lot of people carry that view as well, that angels are sort of in all of us and they're everywhere. And I know what my experiences were, and they were definitely interesting. And at the time, I was all over it, that they were angels, full stop, end of story. And then as time's gone by, I've started to question the legitimacy of that perspective, and not because I know something happened, and it did happen, and it was very visual, and it was very communicative, and there was a whole lot of things in there, and I had other experiences. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is something you also said earlier, but essentially, is that actually an angel for real, or is it something completely different, or is it really something outside of us that's able to talk back to us? What is it? You know, who knows? And then, of course, the bottom line question is, does it really matter? Hey.
All that matters is what you believe in.
If you're having fun with it. And so, I really last minute since I changed everything. Now, next Sunday. Shameless plugs before I go away for everybody to tune into. You can pop along to www.intuitalks.com. Go looking for energy therapies or go to the show. There's a little menu at the top. If you're not aware of this is my favorite place. I always go there. It's actually a bookmark on my taskbar on my browser. You go to the show calendar, and when you go into the homepage on IntuiTalks, so you go to the page, you'll see the menu across the top. You'll see the little mic, and you look down and you'll see shows or schedule or calendar. I can't remember what she's got there now. I think it's schedule. Click on it, and the calendar opens up, and you can see all the shows that are actually physically, really booked for the month ahead. And you can go and look at the next month if you like. But when you look at them, you can click on any of those shows and it'll open up the show page, and hopefully there's a description of that show for you. And you can click follow at the bottom to follow a particular show or a particular episode of the show. Sunday, 10 till 11. I have Voices from the Past. We're talking about Dead Sea Scrolls. It's running for 8 weeks. Did I do 4 for 8? 8 weeks. If I'm on video, I better do it right. Running for 8 weeks, and we'll be looking at a different sacred scroll, or there's so many temptation bowls. The Caves of 1,000 Buddhas has got a lot of material in them, and there's just so much that I want to bring a little bit of that to us all, and it's exciting, interesting stuff. This next Wednesday, don't worry about that grandchild. He's a child of the angels. Hello. And next Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. regular time, a psychic affair. And I will be talking about quantum time mechanics. And we can talk about how you see the future, how you can do progressive hypnosis, which I've been doing for you, how you can heal into the future. All of that stuff we'll be talking about next week. And we will be doing readings if you want them. We'll be doing what we call future projections. And we'll be able to look at how you are creating something that's going to go for you. And that's how we can see it. So that's been wonderful. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. And do not forget, remember this week, do not be a part of your own problem, right? Thank you so much, Cathy, for coming.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thanks.